All right, so when you guys see this, it's going to be Friday, so I'm going to say happy Friday. I actually just finished doing my morning Bible study, and I have a little time. But today, we are going to talk about short-term memory loss. I suffer from short-term memory loss. Not in a medical sense. No, I didn't bump my head and I didn't wake up in a bed with amnesia like they see in the TV shows and the movies. But I will tell you that I can forget things so quickly. I will literally sit down, and I know that people can relate to this, or at least I hope so. Y'all don't leave me on an island on this. I will literally sit down at my desk with my pen in my hand, ready to do something, and I'll go, what was I just doing? What was I about to do? If I don't write something down, I'm not going to remember it. I will have teachers come up to me. They'll say, Miss Jen, don't forget I put in a time off. Girl, I don't remember. Before you even tell me, I don't remember. If you didn't write it down, if I didn't write it down, if it is not on something official, I have forgotten. I walk into rooms at home. What was I here for? I can be mid-conversation and forget what we were talking about. So while I've never seen a neurologist or a doctor, I know that I have short-term memory loss. Here's the problem with short-term memory loss. It can get you off your goal. It can take you off task. You can be on track, having a day, on mission, on brand, close, getting closer to what you need, and then you forget. And you have to spend time trying to remember what it was. What was I talking about? What was the last thing I said? What did we do before that? And it takes you off track. It causes you, it dishevels you, right? Because now you're like, am I going crazy? What the heck was I supposed to be doing? Why, Lord, can't I remember, right? And I think that a lot of us as Christians also have short-term memory loss. It's all through the Bible, actually. We see examples of people who are in the midst of their problems, in the midst of suffering. And instead of calling out to God, they have short-term memory loss. They forget what was promised to them. They forget what was just delivered to them. They forget that God brought them out of A, and now they're questioning, can God bring them out of B? We can talk about my boos, the chosen people walking through the wilderness for 40 years because they continued to do things because they had short-term memory loss. They had just been delivered from slavery. They watched God do number of miracles. He brought locusts. He spared them from persecution. He gets them out of Egypt. They're standing in front of an ocean, and Moses, he said, hey Moses, raise your staff. Moses was like, all right, God, I got nothing else to do. I'm standing in front of the thing. There's a war chariot coming behind me. I'm just gonna believe you for this. Bam, staff in the water, Red Sea parts. These people walk through the water. They literally just walk through a parted sea. They get into the wilderness and they're like, God can't deliver us. We hungry. We're better off in Egypt. How quickly you forgot short-term memory loss that you just walked through a parted sea. You walked through a parted sea. And what did that memory loss do? What did that disbelief do? What did that complaining, what did that focusing on the problem do? It caused what should have been a 15-day journey to be 40 years because you had to keep wondering. And God kept having to remind you who you were. Really had a miracle. Jesus took loaves of bread and he multiplied them. They're months later, chapters later, it might have been days later. Once again, not a scholar, don't quote me. Fact check everything I say. They had the exact same problem. And instead of just saying, hey Jesus, we know you did it before, can you do it for us again? They start to, we don't have no food. Who gonna feed all these people? Lord, please help us. And God's like, how can you not remember? Why do you have short-term memory loss? I've already given you this exact blessing, but I'm such a good God. I'm not petty. I'm not going to say, oh, you don't remember what I did for you? Then figure it out. He does it for them again. He shows them again who he is. Y'all, short-term memory loss is a problem with us Christians because we will get in the middle of our storms. We will get in the middle of our problems, and the problems will cause us to forget who we are, who God promised us to be, what he's already done for us. And then we're wallowing. We're praying with tears in our eyes. God, how am I ever going to get through this situation? And he wants us to turn around and go, hey girl, look at all the other times I have brought you through. How did you walk into this room? How did you walk into the situation? And you forgot what I've done. You have to remember. And here's the thing. Maybe you don't remember all the ways he delivered you, but then we got this beautiful book here that shows us all the ways he's delivered other people. And the word tells us there's nothing new under the sun. Your problem is just their problem remixed. Your problem is just their problem in a modern world. Yeah, you might have, it might not be bread. You might, listen, God, I'm low carb. I ain't even worried about no bread. But maybe you're worried about your finances. Maybe you're worried about this inflation and these costs of these grocery bills, and you're going, how am I going to provide for my family? And God's like, do you not see? Do you not remember? I have done it for them. I've done it for her. I've done it for your friends, and I'm going to do it for you. Don't have short-term memory loss. And let me tell you why I got my Bible, because I love to read. This is like one of my favorite stories in the Bible, so I'm going to read it to you. That day when the evening came, this is Mark 4:35. Mark 4:35. That day when the evening came, he said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were other boats with him. A furious squall came up, that's a storm, and waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him up and said, Teacher, don't you care if we drown? He got up, he rebuked the wind, and he said, quiet, be still. Some translations say, peace, be still. Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. And he said to the disciples, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? They were terrified and asked each other, who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Now, this was earlier in the Jesus ministry. So I'm going to give the disciples a little grace that maybe they did see him cast out a demon, but whatever, we're not gonna get in that. Maybe they didn't see who he was. Maybe they still were confused of who he was, but we have no excuse. This is a storm. God seems dormant. God seems quiet, and he's just sleeping. He's just resting, and he's waiting for you to remember. This is a man who can calm winds and waves. Let me stop running around with the chicken with my head cut off. Let me stop wondering how we're going to get through these waves. Let me stop looking at the terrifying ocean, and let me turn back to Jesus. Let me call out to him and say, God, I know you don't want me to drown. I know you see me, and I'm ready for your help. And God's going to say, hey, my sister, thank you for your faith. Thank you for bringing this problem to me. Let me handle it. All right, so for those of you who have short-term memory loss, I want you to drop that in the comments. Please don't leave me alone. Please tell me I'm not the only one walking into rooms going, what was I doing? I can have the task in my hand and still not remember. But one thing, I pray for all of us that we may forget those things, but we never forget all that God has done for us. I pray that you have a very happy Friday. I pray that you go into this weekend celebrating love, whether it's love with your friends, love with your family, but especially the love of Jesus. He loves us so much, and we do not need to forget it. Y'all stay blessed. Happy Friday.